But shalom, everyone. Here we are learning about the Korban Pesach. That's this Shabbat is going to be Shabbat HaChodesh, Parshat HaChodesh. When we learn as a preparation for Passover, we learn about how the Jews, when they left Egypt the first time, when they left Egypt and kept Pesach for the first time, as what they did. It's not exactly what we do now, but it's very, very similar. And one of the more similar things is, first of all, the date when they did it, and the fact they eat matzot, and they eat bitter herbs. And in those days, they ate the Korban Pesach offering. Which was a sheep or a goat that would be taken to the Holy Temple, we slaughtered in the daytime, right before Passover, and then it would be eaten on Passover in the nighttime. And when we have the third temple, we'll do it again. And that's what the Haftor is going to be talking about, the prophecy of Ezekiel regarding the third temple. But meanwhile, we began yesterday. Let's have on this. Learning about the Pesach sacrifice. God commanded Moses on the first day of Nisan, like 2 weeks before they made this Pesach. They sacrificed this Pesach offering, Pesach, the lamb or the goat. And God commanded the Jews that they should take some of the blood, put it on their, slaughter the animal. Each person had to eat it in their house. And they would take the blood, they would put it on the overhang and on the two mezuzot, on the two sides of the doors, on the inside. So let's get this. I think this is where we got up to. So let's go. Last time. Yeah, let's just do yesterday what we got up to yesterday. And you should take a sheep into your house from the 10th day of the month. We don't do that now. It was only done one time when they left Egypt. And this was in order to impress on the Egyptians that the Jews were not afraid of them, because the one of the main gods of Egypt was the sheep. The sheep, especially the zodiac, whatever is the sheep, is Aries, whatever. So says you have to take a sheep, a male, 1 year old, and you have to take it on the 10th day. That's what it said before on sentence number 4. On the 10th day of the month. So he's speaking to Moses on the first day of the month, right? The month of Nisan, the first day of the month. By the way, these names of Nisan, like we talked about before, we talked about these yesterday. These names of the months, they were not, they were only given in Babylon. And a lot of them are not even, they're Babylonian names, Nisan. So in any case, Babylon, Persian names. And we explained why yesterday. Okay, so therefore here in the Torah, it's not going to refer to the names of the months that we call them. The months are just called the month number 1, number 2, and 3. Remember we learned yesterday, the Kli Ykar, he explained that very beautifully. Okay, so you take this sheep or goat and you slaughter it. You take the blood and you put it on shtei mezuzot, bala mashkov, on the two sides of the door and on the mashkov, on the houses that you're going to eat the Pesach offering in them. And we're going to see, Rashi is going to say in a moment, that you take the blood and put it on the inside of the houses. It says, you see. This means, you have to take the blood. What does it mean you take it? How do you take the blood? Blood spills out on its own. What do you take it? It says you take it in a vessel. You might think, well, maybe I should, cup my hand, take the blood in the hand. It says there's blood asher basaf. We'll see in the next sentence. Take the blood that's in the vessel. You put it on the mezuzot. What's the mezuzot? The mezuzot are the ones that stand up, the vertical, skufot, one on the right, one on the left. And on the mashkov is the overhang. That the delet, it says a shokef, it looks over on the delet, on the door, I'm sorry. And that's shkifa, means like a kolel and nidaf, something that Chabad, it's like looking over. On the houses that you eat it, below alamashkov or mezuzot shebabayit ha-teven. Don't put it on the door of any of your storehouses or the houses with the places, the stalls, wherever you keep the animals. She'ain darim that you don't live in them. You might think that I have a big storehouse. I got a huge door over there. I'll put it over there. No, whatever house you're going to eat the Pesach offering, they were supposed to be in the house and not to leave the house. Let's see, the Kli Ykar says something interesting. Moshe, he did the opposite of what God said. What do you mean God said? What does God say? God said, put it on the two side posts and on the mashkof of the houses. And Moses, let's see, what is Moses going to say? Moses is going to say, here. He said, where is it? One second. Okay, anyway, when they actually did it, so Moses told the people to put the blood on the overhang first, and then on the two doors, the opposite of what God said. Here. Moshe, he turned the order around, and he said, "V'higatem el hamashkov vel shtei mezuzot." They should put it on the overhang first, and then on the mezuzot. But why did Moses? God said put it on the mezuzot first, on the sides, and then on the top. In the Midrash, he explains that this is a very deep thing. Nochaloman, we can say that God said, "Omer HaChodesh Baruch Hu Omer L'Yisrael." God said that Moses should tell the Jews, "Shuvo." No, I'm sorry. But God said to the Jews, "Shuvo alai v'ashuvo alechem." It's a sentence in the prophet Malachi. Return to me, and I will return to you. Start from the bottom up. And the Jewish people, they said, right, like the order we have here. God, first of all, said the mezuzot on the sides, and then he said, put the blood on the top. He said, God said, you Jews, you start, and I'll react. You do tshuva to me, you return to me, and I will reveal myself to you. But the Jews said, Yisrael, they said back to God, Ein bikoach, I haven't got power to do to you, to return to you, God, first. You have to really give us a big inspiration, do a couple of miracles. You have to begin, like it says in the book Lamentations. Hashivenu Hashem Alecha, you, God, inspire us. You do miracles, and you return us, and then Neshuva, and then we'll do it on our own. So God said, you first of all turn to me on your own, and then I'll react. I'll do you miracles. I'll help you. And the Jewish people said, no, it's not going to work that way. If you're going to wait for us to start, it's not going to start. You first of all inspire us, and then afterwards. So that's why Moses changed the order. God said start from the bottom, the side posts, and then the overhang. And Moses told the Jewish people start with the overhang first. In other words, what is it playing? The God, you have to begin. Also, it says the mashkov kalapi HaKodesh Baruch Hu. The overhang, that refers to the top. That's the highest. That refers to God. He's above everything. Like it's saying, Mashkip Mimron Kachol, that God looks over the world from his holy place. And Shtei Mezuzot, that's what holds up the overhang. The overhang that hold the two side posts, they are the supports for the overhang. The overhang is God. What is it that supports God? Zechut Avot Ve'imot, the merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's on one side, and the four mothers on the other side: Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Like it says, Me'ona Elokei Kedem mitachat zerot olam, mitachat zerot olam, because the Avot, the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they are under the what's called God's holy throne, His holy chariot. and they are called the arms of the world. They're, so to speak, hold up the world. Therefore, Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu Chol Kavod, the Rev, when God wants to give, pay attention to those who fear Him, they said, put it first of all on when God said, first of all, I'm going to give credit to the two mezuzot. First of all, the two foundations of the Jewish people, and then afterwards on the mashkov, then I'll do it. To say that the tzaddikim, that the righteous Jews, that they are the sons, they are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the four mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. They begin, and then God said, I'll react. So first of all, the mezuzot said God, and then the mashkov, the overhang, God said, then I'll react. The Jewish people have to act righteously. But Moses said, he got them, Ela mashkov. First of all, put it on the overhang. Techila. Ki ein banu koach, said, God, maybe you would like us to start, but we can't. You have to do it for the Jewish people. Okay. In any case, this starts the love song. This is the story that's the theme of Shir Hashirim, the love relationship between God and the Jews and God. And it's a very stormy relationship. And sometimes the Jews are looking for God. Sometimes God is looking for the Jews. Sometimes the God is mad at the Jews. Sometimes he hides himself, and etc. Okay, so you have to slaughter this animal, put the blood on the doors, on your door, on the overhang, and on the two mezuzahs, and eat the flesh on that night, sli eish, roasted in fire, matzot, with matzot, al morim, and bitter herbs. This is, you have to eat the meat, v'lo agidim, and not the sinews or the bones. Al morim, anything that's bitter is considered to be mora. Horseradish, anything that's bitter is called, really the ideal bitter herb is lettuce. Why? Because lettuce, even though it's not as bitter as horseradish, but lettuce, it starts off very sweet. If you eat lettuce, it's very sweet in the ground. And if you let it grow, it becomes very bitter. And that's what happened with the Jewish people. They were in Egypt, they were slaves, and first of all, it was very good for them. They were protected, they were this. And Paro said, work for me, I'll give you good pay. And they all started really working hard. And then it got more and more bitter. Paro paid them absolutely nothing, etc. The tzivam, lechol morer, we have to eat bitter herbs. Why? Because it was very, very bitter in Egypt. And we've been eating this bitter herbs since then, not just on Passover, the whole year we eat it. All right, there's a lot of very beautiful explanations, but I would like to just make a little bit of progress here and get to the Haftora. Even though you'll see that in the Haftora, there's not really that much to explain. We'll see. It's very long. Don't eat it semi-cooked, or boiled in water. It has to be roasted in fire. Its head on its knees and on its insides. What does that mean? You have to bend it over, sort of like a fetus, Don't eat it boiled. Rashi explains, don't eat it unroasted, or roasted just a little bit, rare done. That the word na, something which is uncooked, is called na in language of Arabi, in Arabic. All the sources of all the languages come from Hebrew, and so some of them were adapted, straight from Hebrew, from Lashon HaKodesh, and the Jews don't even use them anymore. But that's where it came from. So it says in Lashon Arabi, the big example is totafot. It says the tefillin have to be totafot, between your eyes with totafot. It says tot means in African and in Katfi and a different language. It has to be cooked. What does it mean? Kol zeh ba'azara. This is in a warning that it should not, don't eat it. This is all part of don't eat it, right? Don't eat it slightly roasted or boiled in water. It's a negative commandment. Boiled in water. What about maybe boiling it in fruit juice. What about other liquids? Talmud Lomer, ubashal muvushal. That's why it repeats it twice. Mikol mokom, and don't make it boiled in anything. Ki'im tzliesh. Now you have to remember who's writing this. This is God Himself writing these words. Ki'im tzliesh, but roasted in fire. Lamaila, it said that it's a positive commandment. It says you have to. Here it says Palis. It says, where is it? But above it said that you should roast it. Where is it? It's too big. If it was, the page was a bit small. Anyway, it says that you should roast it before. But when it said you should roast it before, this is a positive commandment. And now this is talking a negative commandment. It should not be eaten anything except for roasted. That's what he wants to say. Oh, here it says, you should eat it, sli eish, right? Matzot, it's right before me. It has to be eaten roasted. And here it says again, don't eat it boiled, but rather roasted in fire. So it already said roasted in fire. Why is it saying? So he said before, when it said it was talking about a positive commandment, it must be roasted. And here is also a negative commandment. Do not eat it except roasted. So if you eat the Passover offering, anything other than roasted, you have transgressed a negative commandment. And you have also avoided a positive commandment. So eating it anything other than roasting it means you've already done two sins. Sin number one, you ate it in a way other than roasted. And another is you avoided doing the positive commandment of roasting it. Rosh al Karov says like this: you roast the whole thing together with its head and its legs and the intestines inside. And the intestines are inside of it, but they're inside of it after you wash them off. In other words, you slaughter the animal, you take out the intestines, and you remove from them the excrement that's inside of them. Then you put them back inside of the animal and roast it. That's what it means al karav, al kirbo. This is like al tzavom, together with. Kamochem, in other words, as they are. Right? Leave the whole thing should be roasted as it is, but the intestines is not nice to burn the intestines with all the excrement inside of it. It'll give everything a bad taste. So you take out the excrement and then you put the intestines and things back in. Don't leave any of it over until the morning. And if you leave any of the morning, then you cannot eat it. It has to be burned. Why is it telling you don't leave it over in the morning twice? Lo totiru mimeno boker, v'notar mimeno ad boker breish. Why? It should say don't lo totiru mimeno. Just right. V'notar mimeno ad boker tisrov. Anything that remains until the morning should be burned. Why does it have to say don't remain? It says to tell you boker al boker, to tell you that there's 2 mornings. 2 mornings. What does it mean 2 mornings? Shaboker mashma'o mishas and etzachama. When we say morning, it means when the sun is already seen on the horizon. There's 2 times of morning. There's when it just starts to get light outside. That's called olat hashachar. And then after that, it could be sometimes even a half an hour afterwards, when the sun is actually seen. After the sun rises up, then the sun, that's called netzachama. The sun is seen. The ball of the sun. So the Torah is coming to tell us that the transgression to eating it, the transgression is the first shine of the morning. That's the Shem's. And right, so it's coming to tell you that the earliest possible time, that's when it's forbidden. That's the cutoff point for eating it. There's also another midrash to tell you. So that's why it says ad boker. Don't think it's the latest time for the morning. It's the earliest time for the morning. That's when it's forbidden. Also, there's a midrash that says that it can be that you should not burn it on the holiday. Elamim macharat. So what happens? How did it work? The Jewish people would slaughter. They would go to the Holy Temple. Yerushalayim. All the Jews would go to Yerushalayim. All the Jewish families, everyone, they would go to Jerusalem. And the males, or the representatives of each, they would have a group. And the representatives of the group, they would go to the Holy Temple in the daytime, on the 14th of the daytime, before the night fell, and they would slaughter the sacrifice. They would slaughter the sacrifice. It was a couple of hours before the night fell, slaughter the sacrifice. And then after that, they would take it home, they would roast it and take it home. And in the nighttime, when it came, then they would do this, the Passover ritual, say the night, eat it together with matzah and everything like that. Anything that was left over, that's the night, the 15th. 15th began, right? Then, as soon as the morning came, it was forbidden to eat. Anything that was left over, it had to be burned. But you shouldn't burn it in that morning because it's Yom Tov, it's a holiday, and you're not supposed to burn it, but you have to wait for one more day. Came to the shu. The first, what's left over on the first morning, until the second morning, then you can stand up and burn it. So in Israel, in other words, they did not burn what was left over in the morning of the holiday. They waited until the next day in the morning. You couldn't burn it the next night also because the Holy Temple wasn't open in the nighttime. So, this is how you're supposed to eat it. Your loins are girded, shoes on your feet, a stick in your hands, and eat it quickly. It's a Passover offering to God. It says you have to eat it quickly to show that they left Egypt in a quick way, because it says the Tanya explains that if they would have stayed there in Egypt, they might not have left. They were really enamored and how do you say, stuck to the evil and the idolatry of Egypt. If they would have stayed one more minute, as they would have stayed there, they have to run away. The Kli Ykar says something nice. In the Mechilta, it says this is what's called Schipazon Shechina. That in the future, it is back then, that God's presence forced them out of La'atid, but in the future redemption, which is going to come through the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, I hope right now, it says, Lo b'chipazon tetzeu. It says that things won't be hurried up. Biur davar, what does it mean? The fee, because the Geula Zu, this redemption that was in Egypt, Kativ, it says, V'Hashem olech lifneim, that God had to go before them. Mashma, this implies, of a lo me'achreim, that God was not behind them. Lefisha Mitzrayim, because the Egyptians, was filled with idols. Therefore, God's presence, so to speak, was pushed away from Egypt. Okay, God couldn't. It says every time that Moses received prophecy, he had to leave the main city of Egypt. The same thing also here. It says, remember we said right in the beginning of this whole paragraph, HaChodesh is Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe be'eretz Mitzrayim. Says in the land of Israel, Egypt, but not in the big city where all the idols were. Therefore, when the Jews left, telchu b'chipazon, they had to go quickly in order to maher l'kodesh baruch hu, to run to get God, to run after, so to speak, God's presence, the Pnei of the Shekhinah. Of La'atid, in other words, the evil was behind them. The Jewish people, the evil was, the only good was in front of them, so they ran to the good. But in the future, it says the Shekhinah will be before them, God's presence will be before them and behind them. The world will be fixed up. Therefore, they won't have to run away from anything because there won't be any evil behind them. Because then it would seem that they were running away from God who was behind them. I don't know what the abbreviation was. It means this is what the Torah means. That's what it means in the prophecy of Isaiah. That you will not go out. The shin is before. Okay, it says that's what it means. That you won't go out quickly in the future. And running, you won't have to. That God will go and He will gather you together, the God of Israel, and He'll be behind them as well, behind you as well. I will go through the land of Israel in that night, and I will smite all the firstborn of the Egyptians, men and animals, and all the Egyptian gods I will judge them. I will do justice. Rashi says, if they were made, what do you mean, the gods? It says, all Bechor, any firstborn, even firstborn of every other nation, if they happen to be in Egypt, God said he will smite them. That's what it says, Maka Mitzrayim b'Bechoreim. There's also another explanation that this was talking about Shabbat HaGadol, that's next week, that all the firstborn made a war against Paro, the firstborn Egyptians, because God said, I'm going to kill all the Egyptians, the firstborn, and they didn't want to die, so they made a war, Maka Mitzrayim, that Egypt was smitten by who? B'Choreim, in their own firstborn. It says, Me'adam ad Behema. It says, Me'adam ad Behema, the one who began with the sin, namely Adam, as he's the one that gets repaid first. He gets punished first. All of the gods of Egypt, if they were made, there were gods that were made of wood, they rotted. If they were made of metal, they melted. And they said, I will make judgment. God said, I will do it, and not by means of any other messenger. I'm going to do the whole thing myself. And the blood will be for you for a sign. What does it mean for you? Let's just do this quickly. It'll be for you for a sign on the houses, and this was, you're going to put it in the inside of the house. The sign will be for you. And I will see, don't worry about it. I will see the blood and I'll jump it because God sees everything. That's what he says. Pesachti, akol galui lefanav. Everything is revealed to God. Elohim HaKodesh Baruch, God said, I will put my eyes on it to see that you're doing my commandments, and I'll jump over you. He says, Pesachti, the holiday of Pesach means to jump over, but it also means v'chamalti, I will have mercy. Pesoach v'chamal, it says. And there will not be in you, it says, v'lo yeh b'chem negev. You will not be smitten. And I've told you this before, but it's one of the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe pointed out that it says, what about an Egyptian, if he's in your house, an Egyptian that's in the house of a Jew, you might think that he can get away. It says, Lo yeh b'chem negev, you won't be smitten, but the Egyptians were. Hari, what if there's a Jew in the house of an Egyptian? I mean, then he'll probably get smitten, right? Because he's in the wrong house. It says, no, it says, Talmud Lomar, Lo yeh b'chem negev, no matter where you are, you won't get smitten. The Rebbe points out, a Jew is in the house of the Egyptians. What is a Jew doing in the house of the Egyptians on the night that everybody's leaving Egypt? Right? The Egyptians were slaughtering them and doing terrible things to the Jews. And now God says, okay, all the Jews get together, be in your houses. I'm going to get you out of Egypt. And here we have a Jew that went into the house of an Egyptian. He was spending the Passover in the house of the Egyptian. He was trying to ingratiate himself to the Egyptians, be like one of them. That's like the lowest of the low. Nevertheless, it says that the plague will not be in you. God said, no matter how low you can go, this night everybody's going to be saved. Even the lowest of the Jews. This will be a remembrance, and you will make a holiday for God for all generations. Chukat olam techagu. It will be a eternal statute for you. Seven days eat matzah, but on the first day get rid, and as the beginning, the first day is another commandment. You have to get rid of all leavened bread from your house. You call it chametz because if you eat leavened bread, that person will get cut off from the Jewish people from the first day of Passover until the last day of Passover. It says the Rashi that another place it says that you should eat matzah for 6 days. Eat matzah. So it says it comes to tell you that what? That the 7th day of Passover is not an obligation. Not an obligation. Just don't eat chametz. How do you know that all the other 6 days are also not obligations? The Torah says, Sheish Yamim. What does it mean, Sheish Yamim? It says to tell you that only the first day do you have to eat matzah. But Yom Rishon, you have to eat matzah. And all the other 6 days, you just have to not eat chametz. But you don't have to eat matzah if you don't want to. You can eat matzah just on the first night of Passover. You don't have to eat matzah any of the other days. But Yom Rishon is a holiday. The seventh day of Passover is also a holiday, and it will be for you, even though we don't say Shechianu in Kiddush, but it still is a holiday. It's considered to be a holiday. What does it mean? It's a holiday. It's don't do any work, but you can do the work. Any work which is necessary in order to make food, cooking, slaughtering, even carrying, because you have to carry from one house to the other, because it's necessary for food, it is permissible on Yom Tov. So Yom Tov, there's not the prohibition of carrying in a public domain. There's not prohibited, it's permissible, not like on Shabbat. And it's also permissible to cook and to even slaughter animals. But there's certain things that are forbidden to do, like grinding up and things like that. Those that you can learn. But nevertheless, any work which is connected to preparing food is permissible. But you have to preserve, watch over the matzot. What do you mean watch out? That they shouldn't become chametz. They shouldn't raise up. Because on that very day, you, all of the hosts of the Jews, left Egypt. Watch this day as an eternal covenant. Eternal covenant. Chukat olam. So that you shouldn't say, what is it that you shouldn't say, listen, we have to make a holiday, but maybe we don't have to have all these restrictions, right? That you shouldn't do work. We just have to make the holiday, make a sign like, Chanukah or something like that. You can do work on Chanukah and Purim. It says, therefore, it comes back and it says again, Shalo tomar azhara kol malacha lo taseh lo ledorot, so that you won't say that this, what it said, don't do any work, this is only for the first Passover, but not for the future generations. So that's what it says. Chukat olam, it's eternal. It's eternal covenant. There's a lot of things that say that they're eternal also. The Torah generally isn't it. Okay. On the first day, on the 14th of the month in the evening, in other words, the evening after the 14th, right? In Judaism, the day starts, the date begins in the nighttime. As soon as the sun sets, then that's a new day. When does Shabbat start? When the sun sets. So it says the same thing as Passover. When does it start? It starts when the sun sets. So the day was the 14th day. That's when you made the sacrifice of the Pesach offering. But when the sun sets, the evening of the 14th, when the sun sets on the 14th, in other words, the 15th, then eat the matzah ad Yom Echad until the 21st day of the month. 7 days, leaven the bread, you should not be found in your house. So here's another thing. Not only are you not allowed to eat it, you're not allowed to possess it. Because anyone who does eat anything that has even a bit of leavened bread in it will be cut off from the Jewish people. Bager ube'ezrach ha'oretz. Bager ube'ezrach ha'oretz, what does it mean? Because the miracle happened to the Jewish people, so therefore also converts also are included. You might think that converts weren't part of the whole business back then, right? They weren't converted back then. So it's not so. A Jew a non-Jew that converts, as he's also part of the Jewish people, and he celebrates Passover just like the ones who actually were there. Any risen things don't eat, and all of your dwellings eat only matzah. All right, it took a little bit longer when I wanted to, but here we go. Prophecy of Ezekiel. Kol Amar Hashem, this is what God said. This is talking about the third temple. The third temple. Ezekiel was in the end of the first temple being destroyed. And this is God is prophesying the third temple. There's a lot of different explanations about this. It was very strange, and we'll see. Anyway, this is what it's talking about. Kol Amar Hashem, this is what God said. Berishon, on the first day, the first month, Be'echad HaChodesh, on the first day of the month, you have to take a par ben bakor, a ox, tamim, unblemished, v'chatat et mitbayash, and purify the temple. And temple, purify the temple. Well, there's a nice big Malbim over here that he says that all these laws, you can't really explain it unless you have to explain that it is dealing with the third temple. Okay. The Kohen should take from the blood of this ox and he should put it on the the side posts of the door of the house, the holy temple, and on the four corners of the the courtyard of the where the altar is, and on the mezuzot, on the entrance of the inner courtyard. Okay, if you see sometimes a picture of the estimation of what the third temple looks like, will look like. This is what you should do on also you should do the same thing on the 7th day of the month. Meish shogeh umipesi v'kipartem et abayet. And this will bring forgiveness. This will clean the entire house. What does it mean? It says it means that you will purify the house from the mistakes that were made by foolish people. Right? Foolish people, the mistakes that were made, you'll purify it again. Purify it again. Those you do it on the first day, and any mistakes that might have been made, so you redo it again. You do again another purification. On the first day, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, that's Passover, be Pesach, 7 days. Matzahs, you should eat matzahs for 7 days. And as we know, you don't have to eat matzah for 7 days, but this is talking about, and the Nasi is the king. Usually on this day, he will do for his sake and for all the people another another cow offering. 7 days of the holiday, there will be made each day there will be made another ox will be sacrificed, and 7 rams for the 7 days, and for a sin offering, a goat for each and every day. And mincha, bread offering, will be brought, etc. And there will be oil offering. On the 7th day, in the 7th month, Tishrei, on the 15th day of that month, it will be a holiday, Sukkot. You should also do the same thing for 7 days, just like you did before. Now, in Sukkot, usually every day there's an increasing number that's done. But here he says not. Let's go to the 1 minute. There's some secret way of going to the next chapter. How do we do it? There is a way that this is done, and I don't know what it is. 1 second. 1 minute. What's this? Perik Yosef, Perik. 1 minute. There it is. Okay, so says God, the inner courtyard. I mean, this is a bit esoteric, this whole business, because it's talking about the third temple, and we can't. The third, it says the gate of the inner courtyard, which faces the east, it will be closed 6 days of the week, and on Shabbat it will be open, and on the first day of the month it will also be open. And the king will come, the Nasi. It translated as the prince, but Nasi is usually the king. The king will come into the ulam, into that was the entrance, the chamber, which is right before the holy, where the candelabra and everything was, the chutz, and he will stand in between the mezuzot of this gate of the entrance, and the Kohanim will make their offerings and their shalomot, and he'll bow down, and he'll and the gate will not be closed until the evening. And all the people will bow down in the entrance of the gate on Shabbat and Chodesh in front of God. Everyone that comes will bow down. And this offering that will be sacrificed by the king on Shabbat will be 6 sheep and 1 ram, and a bread offering, 1 ephah for the ram and for the sheep, and also oil offering will also be on the first day of the month. Is also going to be offered up a ox and 6 sheep and 1 ram. Now, of course, you might ask a very simple question: what do we care about this, and what does anybody care about this? Why does God care about this? Why does God care? Well, first of all, we see that God cares about the sacrifice. It's very important to him, and we feel that these sacrifices have some sort of a very deep effect on the whole entire creation, because we're talking about the creator of the world, and he's telling his chosen people what they have to do. Okay, then you have to bring also a certain amount of bread for the ox and for the offerings we're talking about, and for the ram you have to make, and for the sheep, right? And oil has to also be brought. When the king comes into the edifice, which is before what we call the holy, that he should go in this gate, and he should also go out through this gate. When the people come before God on the holidays, so they should go through the northern gate, which that would be on the right side of the temple, and they should bow down, and they should go out on the south side of the gate, which that's of course on the left side. If you look, they should go out, and they shouldn't come back into the gate which they exited from. But the king among them, the king will go among them, and he will say, when the people go out, when the people enter, the king will enter. When the people exit, the king will exit. And the holidays, and on the Chagim, and on the special days, there will be a certain this type of an offering: how much bread you should bring, how many sheep you should bring, how many an ox, 1 ox you should bring, and a ram, and sheep, and oil, etc. Should bring oil offering. Should be put the oil into the bread offering. And if the king wants to make a free will offering, an ola or shlomim, so they open up the gate, the eastern gate, and he can make his offering and his cow offering or his peace offerings, just like he did on Shabbat, and he can go out and they close the door, etc. And usually the doors are open on Shabbat, only on Shabbat. But the king in the middle of the week, he wants to come in as they open these doors for him. What does he make? A keves ben shanato, a sheep 1 year old. He can make for a total offering for God, and every single morning he can also make it if he wants to. Excuse me, 1 minute. No, this is not talking about the king. This is talking about the regular offering. Every day will be made. A sheep every day, each and every morning will be made. Of course, in the Holy Temple was made in the morning and in the evening also. A bread offering should be made every single morning, which is six measures, and oil is 1/3 of a hin. One minute, just 1 minute. To to mix in and to soften up the meal offering to God. This is an eternal offering forever. And the last chapter, this is the end of our Haftorah. It is. And they will make this a lamb offering and the bread offering and the oil every single morning, a continual offering to God. This is the Haftorah of this Shabbat, Parshat HaChodesh, talking about the offerings that will be in the third temple. We should look for it quickly. And now this seems to be pretty meaningless to us. But in fact, everything seems to be meaningless to us. Also putting on tefillin and all the other commandments. In the future, it's not going to be that way. We're going to see and feel that this is God's will. And what a miraculous thing. First of all, the whole world is just waking up in the morning and seeing the sun, breathing air and rain comes down. Everything is a miracle. But how much more so we'll feel that the creation is a miracle, and how much more so that the commandments that we do are miracles, and how much more so the commandments that are done in the Holy Temple are miracles. So we're waiting for it to come. Meanwhile, we have to be happy with what we've got, but never satisfied with what we've got. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, tomorrow, God willing, at 8:15, we will learn a Sikha of the Rebbe. This morning was a electrical shortage, power, whatever it was, and it stopped for just a couple of, half a minute, but it knocked everything out. So, but I made up the class. If you look and see, I put on the YouTube the rest of the class. So tomorrow, God willing, we'll learn a Sikha of the Rebbe. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, hope to see you tomorrow. And yes, God bless you.